Captain Marcus Reed stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, watching the stars through the massive viewing screen. After 18 months in deep space, they were finally approaching their destination. Behind them, 50,000 colonists slept, in their pods, dreaming of the new world that would become their home. "Distance to Kepler 442b?" Reed asked his navigation officer. 3 days, Captain. All systems running smooth." The Horizon was humanity's largest colony ship, a massive vessel stretching over 2 kilometers long. It carried everything needed to build a new civilization: families, scientists, engineers, farmers, and enough equipment to establish a thriving settlement. This was humanity's boldest step into the galaxy, their first major colony beyond the solar system. Chief Engineer Lisa Park checked her displays one more time. The fusion engines hummed quietly, pushing them toward their new home at a steady pace. She had worked on this ship for 5 years, knew every bolt and wire. The Horizon was her baby, and she was proud of what human engineering could accomplish. "Captain," called Tactical Officer David Torres from his station, "I'm picking up something strange on long-range sensors." Reed walked over to Torres's console. The young officer had been jumpy throughout the entire journey, always seeing threats where none existed. But his job was to be paranoid, so Reed listened anyway. "What kind of strange?" "Heat signatures near the gas giant." "Could be debris, but the patterns don't look natural." Reed studied the readings. Space was full of rocks and ice, especially around gas giants. But Torres was right. These readings showed too much organization, too much symmetry. "Lisa, can you boost power to the sensors?" Park's fingers danced across her controls. "Done. You should have better resolution now." The screen flickered, then cleared. What they saw made everyone on the bridge go silent. Dot ships, dozens of them hiding in the shadow of the gas giant. They were unlike anything in human design. Smooth, crystalline vessels that seemed to bend light around their hulls. Some were small, no bigger than fighters. Others were massive, dwarfing even the Horizon. "Those aren't human ships," Torres whispered. Reed's mind raced. First contact. This was what every space captain dreamed of and feared. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. "Open a channel on all frequencies," Reed ordered. "Standard first contact protocols." The communications officer worked quickly. "Channel open, sir." Reed cleared his throat. "Unknown vessels, this is Captain Marcus Reed of the United Earthship Horizon. We are a peaceful colonization mission. Please respond." Silence filled the bridge. The alien ships hung motionless in space, neither approaching nor retreating. Reed waited, counting the seconds. First contact required patience. Maybe the aliens needed time to understand human language, or perhaps they were debating among themselves. Then the ships moved. They came out of the gas giant's shadow like hunting wolves, their crystalline hulls catching starlight as they accelerated toward the Horizon. No communications, no warnings, just deadly intent. "Shields up!" Reed shouted. "All power to defensive systems." The Horizon's shields came online, a blue shimmer surrounding the massive ship. But the vessel was designed for exploration and colonization, not warfare. Its shields were meant to stop space debris and radiation, not military weapons. The lead alien ship fired. A beam of pure energy lanced across space, striking the Horizon's forward shields. The protective barrier flared bright blue, then shattered like glass. The beam punched through the ship's hull, tearing through 3 decks before exiting the other side. Emergency alarms screamed across the ship. The lights flickered as power systems struggled to compensate for the damage. Reed felt the deck shake beneath his feet as explosions echoed through the hull. "Damage report," he called out. "Forward sections 20 through 30 are gone," Park reported, her voice tight with shock. "We've lost life support to 12 decks. Emergency bulkheads are sealing, but we're venting atmosphere." Reed's heart sank. Those forward sections housed nearly 5,000 colonists. Families with children, elderly couples seeking a new start, young people full of dreams, all gone in a single shot. "Can we fight back?" Torres shook his head. We have mining lasers and construction equipment, but nothing that could hurt those ships. They're using technology we don't understand. More alien vessels closed in, their weapons charging with an ominous glow. Reed realized they were like wolves surrounding a wounded deer. The aliens weren't just attacking, they were studying the Horizon's defenses, learning how human technology worked. Why? Lisa asked quietly. Why are they doing this? Reed had no answer. The aliens gave no warnings, made no demands. They attacked like humanity was nothing more than a pest to be eliminated. Another energy beam struck the ship, this time hitting the engine section. The Horizon shuddered and began to list to one side as the main fusion reactor went into emergency shutdown. Without power, they were dead in space. Captain, Torres said urgently, I'm reading massive energy buildup from their flagship. Whatever? They're charging. It's big enough to crack us in half. Reed looked around his bridge. His crew stared back at him, waiting for orders. They all knew the situation was hopeless. The aliens had technology that made human weapons look like stone, axes. But Reed was still a captain, and these people were still his responsibility. Lisa, how long until the reactor goes critical if we overload it? Park's eyes widened. Sir, if we overload the reactor while we're this close to their ships, How long? 3 minutes. Maybe 4. Reed nodded. Do it. Torres, prepare to launch all escape pods. Get as many people to the planet as possible. What about the aliens? They'll just hunt down the survivors. Maybe, but some might make it, and we need to get a message back to Earth. Reed moved to the communications console. His fingers flew over the controls, encoding everything they had learned about the alien ships, their weapons, their tactics. The message would take years to reach Earth, but it was humanity's only warning. Reactor overload in 60 seconds, Park announced. Throughout the ship, escape pods launched like seeds from a dying tree. Reed watched them streak toward the planet. Below, hoping some would survive. The aliens seemed focused on the horizon itself, treating the fleeing pods as unimportant. Message transmitted, sir, the communications officer reported. Reed nodded. All hands, abandon ship. That's an order. But his bridge crew didn't move. They stayed at their stations, watching the countdown timer. These were his people, and they wouldn't leave their captain behind. 30 seconds to overload, Park called out. The alien flagship moved closer, its massive weapon almost fully charged. Reed could see details on its crystalline hull now, strange patterns that seemed to shift and flow like liquid. Beautiful and terrible at the same time. 10 seconds. Reed closed his eyes and thought of the colonists in the escape pods. Some of them would survive. They would build settlements, have children, and tell stories about the horizon. About the first humans to meet aliens and the price they paid for that meeting. 5. 3. The Horizon's reactor detonated with the force of a small star. The explosion consumed both the colony ship and the nearest alien vessel, creating a brief new sun in the darkness of space. The shockwave sent other alien ships tumbling, their perfect formations broken in the aftermath. As the light faded, the remaining alien vessels regrouped. They had learned what they came to learn. Humans were weak, their technology primitive, their ships fragile. The threat was minimal, but as the aliens departed, they failed to notice one important detail. The human message burst had reached a monitoring station at the edge of the system and was already racing toward Earth at the speed of light. Humanity's first contact with alien life was over. The war for survival was about to begin. Admiral Rebecca Stone stood in the war room deep beneath Geneva, staring at the holographic display that showed humanity's known colonies. Red markers indicated settlements that had gone dark in the past 6 months. There were too many red markers. The message from the horizon had reached Earth 3 weeks ago, transmitted by an automated monitoring station. The data was corrupted, filled with static and gaps, but the core information was clear enough. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and their new neighbors wanted them dead. Show me the analysis again, Stone ordered. Dr. Michael Chun. Earth's leading expert on alien technology manipulated the hologram. Images of the crystalline ships appeared, rotating slowly in the blue light. We've recovered fragments from 3 different battle sites. The technology is at least 200 years ahead of ours, maybe more. Stone studied the alien ship designs. They were beautiful in a cold, mathematical way, like someone had grown spaceships instead of building them. What do we know about their capabilities? Their weapons use focused energy beams that can punch through our strongest armor. Their ships can accelerate at rates that would turn human crews into paste. Most disturbing, they seem to use quantum manipulation for both propulsion and weapons. Quantum manipulation? Chun nodded grimly. They can affect matter at the subatomic level, change the fundamental properties of materials, disrupt molecular bonds, even alter the structure of space-time in small areas. It's like fighting an enemy who can rewrite the laws of physics. The hologram shifted to show tactical data from the various attacks. Stone watched as human ships were destroyed with clinical efficiency. The aliens never used more force than necessary, never wasted shots, never showed mercy. They're not just destroying our colonies, Stone realized. They're studying us. General Tom Bradley, head of Earth's military forces, leaned forward. What do you mean? Look at the attack patterns. They could have wiped out our ships instantly, but they didn't. They're testing our defenses, learning our capabilities. Every battle is an experiment to them. Chun pulled up another display. The Admiral's right. We've analyzed the weapon impacts and they're calibrated to just barely overwhelm our defenses. They want to see how we respond to different threat levels. Stone felt a chill run down her spine. They're preparing for something bigger. The door to the war room slid open, and Colonel Andy Williams rushed in. His face was pale, his uniform wrinkled from days without sleep. Admiral, we just lost contact with the Luna base. No distress signal, no warning, they just stopped. Transmitting. Stone's blood turned to ice. Luna base was humanity's first major off-world settlement, home to 50,000 people. If the aliens had reached the moon, Earth itself was next. How long ago? 6 hours. We sent a reconnaissance probe, but it was destroyed before it could transmit anything useful. Stone turned to the holographic display, zooming in on Earth's solar system. The blue dove of their homeworld seemed so small, so fragile. Around it, the red markers of lost colonies formed a tightening ring. They're coming here, she said quietly. This was all preparation for an attack on Earth. Bradley stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. How long do we have? Unknown. But if they can reach Luna without us detecting them, they could already be positioning for the final attack. Stone walked to the window that showed Earth's surface far above. Billions of people going about their daily lives, unaware that extinction might be days away. Children playing in parks, workers building the future, lovers making plans they might never see fulfilled. What are our options? She asked. Chun activated another hologram, this one showing Earth's defenses. Orbital platforms, missile systems, fighter squadrons. It looked impressive until you compared it to what they faced. We have 3,000 military spacecraft, most of them short-range fighters. Our orbital defense platforms can engage targets up to lunar distance. The ground-based missile systems have enough firepower to glass half a continent. And against the aliens? It would be like throwing rocks at a tank. Stone nodded. She had expected that answer, but she needed to hear it spoken aloud. Humanity's greatest military achievement was worthless against an enemy who could manipulate matter itself. There is one possibility, Chun said hesitantly. Tell me. We can't match their technology, but we might be able to use their strength against them. Their quantum systems require perfect harmonic balance. If we could find a way to disrupt that balance. You're talking about theoretical physics, Bradley interrupted. We need practical solutions. Chun shook his head. No, General. I'm talking about survival. The aliens have one weakness. They rely on perfection. Their technology works because every component operates in perfect harmony with every other component. But perfect systems are also fragile systems. Stone studied the young scientist. Chun had been working 80-hour days since the first attack, trying to understand technology that should have been impossible. His eyes were bloodshot, his hands shaking from too much caffeine, but his mind was still sharp. What would you need? Time, resources, and a way to get close enough to their ships to test my theories. Time is the one thing we don't have. An alarm began blaring throughout the facility. Red lights flashed as automated systems activated. Stone's communicator crackled to life. Admiral Stone, please report to the observation deck immediately. Priority 1. Stone and her team rushed through the corridors of the underground facility. The observation deck was really just a reinforced room with screens showing feeds from satellites around Earth. What they saw made Stone's heart sink. Ships, hundreds of them emerging from behind the moon like deadly flowers blooming in space. The same crystalline vessels that had destroyed humanity's colonies, but these were larger, more heavily armed. This wasn't a raiding force, it was an invasion fleet. How did they get so close without being detected? Bradley demanded. They must have been using the moon as cover, Colonel Williams replied. Our sensors couldn't penetrate to the far side. Stone watched as the alien fleet formed into perfect geometric patterns. Even their invasion was beautiful, like a deadly dance choreographed by mathematicians. She counted the ships and felt her last hope die. There were at least 500 vessels, some of them massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. Admiral, the communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from the fleet. Put it through. The main screen flickered, then showed an image that made everyone in the room step back. The alien was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to be made of living crystal. Its eyes were deep black, like holes in space itself. When it spoke, the voice was perfectly modulated, lacking any emotion. Humans of Earth, you are a young species that has spread too quickly through the galaxy. Your expansion threatens the stability of established civilizations. You will cease all space travel and return to your homeworld. Any resistance will result in your complete elimination. The transmission ended, leaving the room in stunned silence. They're giving us a choice, William said quietly. Stone shook her head. No, they're not. Look at what they've already done to our colonies. This is just a formality before they wipe us out. She turned to face her team. These were the finest military minds humanity had produced, and they were looking at her like children afraid of the dark. The weight of command had never felt heavier. Chun, how long do you need to test your theories? Weeks, maybe months. You have days. Bradley, I want every military asset we have positioned for defense of Earth. Don't worry about the colonies, they're already lost. Williams, start evacuation procedures for all major cities. Get people underground. Admiral, Bradley said carefully, with respect, we can't fight them. Our weapons are useless against their technology. Stone looked back at the screen showing the alien fleet. They hung in space like elegant predators waiting for humanity's response. She thought about the horizon, about Captain Reed and his crew, who died trying to warn Earth. They didn't give up, even when the situation was hopeless. Maybe we can't fight them in space, she said finally. But if they want to eliminate humanity, they'll have to come down to our level to do it. She activated the facility's communications system, sending her voice to every military installation on Earth. This is Admiral Stone. As of this moment, all orbital installations are to be evacuated. All spacecraft are to return to Earth immediately. We're pulling back to the homeworld, and we're going to make them fight for every inch of ground. Admiral, Shun said urgently, if we let them establish orbital superiority, they can bombard us from space. We'll be helpless. Stone smiled grimly. Maybe, but they've been studying us for months, learning our capabilities. They think they know how humans fight. It's time to show them they're wrong. The alien fleet began moving toward Earth, their crystalline hulls reflecting the light of the sun. In a few hours they would be in orbit, and the real war would begin, but deep in the underground bunkers. Human engineers were already working on plans that would have seemed impossible just days before. They couldn't match alien technology. But they could use human ingenuity. They could adapt, improvise, and survive. The first shot hadn't been Earth's. But Admiral Stone was determined that the last shot would be. Lisa Park crawled through the maintenance tunnel beneath what used to be downtown Chicago. The tunnel was part of the old subway system, expanded and reinforced during the frantic weeks before the aliens arrived. Above her, the city lay in ruins, its skyscrapers reduced to twisted metal and broken glass by alien energy weapons. But below ground, humanity was very much alive. "How much further?" whispered Tony Reeves, the young soldier following her through the narrow passage. "2 more intersections," Lisa replied, checking her modified tablet. The device showed a 3-dimensional map of the tunnel system, updated in real time by scouts throughout the underground network. The weapon cache should be just ahead. 3 months had passed since the aliens established their blockade around Earth. They had expected to find a helpless planet ready to surrender after a few demonstration attacks. Instead, they found empty cities and a population that had seemingly vanished into thin air. The truth was simpler and more complex than the aliens understood. Humanity had gone underground. Admiral Stone's strategy had been desperate but effective. Instead of trying to fight the aliens in space, where human technology was hopelessly outmatched, she had turned Earth itself into a fortress. The planet's extensive mining networks, subway systems, and natural cave formations became a vast underground city, housing nearly 2 billion people. Lisa reached the end of the tunnel and carefully opened a camouflaged hatch. Beyond was a larger chamber, one of thousands carved from the bedrock beneath major cities. This one housed a weapons depot, stocked with everything from traditional firearms to improvised explosive devices. "Sweet mother of pearl," Tony breathed, looking at the racks of equipment. "How did you people manage all this?" Lisa smiled grimly. She had been one of the engineers who designed the underground network, working 8-hour days to convert Earth's infrastructure into a resistance base. When you're facing extinction, you find ways to do the impossible. She activated her communicator, sending a coded signal to the surface. Within minutes, a team of fighters would emerge from hidden entrances to strike at alien patrol units. The attacks were carefully coordinated, using the underground network to position forces exactly where they were needed. The aliens had expected conventional warfare. Instead, they faced an enemy that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. Human. Fighters would emerge from manholes and storm drains, strike with devastating effectiveness, then vanish back into the underground maze before the aliens could respond. Colonel Andy Williams commanded the resistance from a command center built into an old mine shaft beneath the Rocky Mountains. His forces had no hope of matching alien technology in a straight fight, but they didn't need to. They just needed to make the occupation as costly as possible. "Lisa, this is Williams," his voice crackled through her communicator. "We need you to check on the resonance equipment in Sector 7. The scientists think they're close to a breakthrough." Lisa nodded. Even though he couldn't see her, Dr. Chun's team had been working on their quantum disruption theory for weeks, trying to find a weakness in alien technology. The work was conducted in the deepest bunkers, shielded from alien sensors and protected by multiple layers of security. She made her way through the tunnel system, past sleeping areas where families huddled together, past workshops where engineers built weapons from salvaged materials, past medical stations where volunteers tended to wounded fighters. The underground city was a testament to human determination, a civilization built in darkness but burning with hope. Sector 7 was one of the deepest levels, carved from solid rock and accessible only through a maze of passages. Lisa showed her identification to the guards and was waved through to the laboratory complex. Dr. Chun looked up from his work as she entered. The scientist had lost weight during the months underground, his face gaunt from stress and poor nutrition. But his eyes still held the fire of discovery. "Lisa, perfect timing. I think we found something." He led her to a chamber filled with strange equipment. Crystalline fragments from destroyed alien ships were suspended in energy fields, while banks of computers analyzed their quantum signatures. The aliens' technology is based on harmonic resonance, Chan explained, his voice excited despite his exhaustion. Every component in their ships vibrates at specific frequencies. If we can disrupt those frequencies, their ships become junk, Lisa finished. But how do we generate enough interference to affect an entire fleet? Chun smiled for the first time in weeks. That's where your engineering skills come in. We need to turn Earth's ionosphere into a giant resonance chamber. Lisa stared at him. The ionosphere is hundreds of kilometers above ground. How do we affect it from down here? Remember the old HARP research stations? We can modify them to broadcast our interference pattern, but we'll need transmitters all over the planet, all working in perfect synchronization. And most of those stations are on the surface under alien control. Exactly. We need to take them back, modify them, and activate them all at the same moment. If even one station is out of sync, the whole plan fails. Lisa understood the magnitude of what he was proposing. It would require coordinated attacks across the globe with timing measured in microseconds. The underground resistance would have to surface, revealing their positions to strike at heavily defended targets. How many people would we lose? Chen's expression darkened. Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. But if we don't try, the aliens will eventually find all our hiding places. They're already starting to map the tunnel systems. Lisa nodded. She had seen the reports from other sectors. Alien ground forces were becoming more aggressive, using sophisticated sensors to probe beneath the surface. The underground sanctuary was temporary at best. I'll need detailed plans of all the target stations, she said. And we'll have to modify a lot of equipment without the aliens noticing. Already working on it. But Lisa, there's something else you need to know. Chen led her to a secure terminal and called up a classified report. The data showed alien fleet movements over the past week. More ships were arriving in Earth's orbit, massive vessels that dwarfed even the original invasion fleet. They're bringing in reinforcements, he said quietly. Whatever they're planning, it's going to be big. Lisa studied the tactical display. The alien ships were positioning themselves in a perfect sphere around Earth, their weapons aimed at the surface. It looked like preparation for a final bombardment. How long do we have? Days, maybe a week at most. They're done playing games with us? Lisa felt a chill run through her. The underground resistance had been successful beyond all expectations, but success had a price. The aliens were tired of hunting ghosts in tunnels. They were preparing to end the war by burning everything on Earth's surface. She activated her communicator, sending an emergency signal to all sector commanders. This is Lisa Park, Priority Alpha. All units prepare for Operation Harmony. We're going to the surface. Throughout the underground network, the message spread like wildfire. Weapons were distributed, equipment checked, final preparations made. Everyone knew this was humanity's last throw of the dice. If the plan failed, there would be no second chances. In the depths of Sector 7, Dr. Chun made final adjustments to the quantum resonance projectors. The devices were crude compared to alien technology, built from salvaged components and held together with human ingenuity. But they represented something the aliens had never expected from a primitive species: the ability to turn their own perfection against them. Colonel Williams coordinated the global operation from his command bunker. Resistance cells in every major city reported their readiness. The timing had to be perfect, simultaneous strikes on dozens of targets while alien forces were distracted by what would appear to be humanity's final desperate assault. All units, this is Williams, he broadcast to the resistance network. In 6 hours, we surface. Remember, we're not trying to win a conventional battle. We just need to buy Chun's team enough time to activate the resonance network. Lisa checked her equipment one final time. She would be leading the assault on the Chicago HARP station, one of the most heavily defended targets. The mission had perhaps a 10% chance of success, but those were the best odds humanity had seen in months. Around her, the underground city prepared for war. Children were moved to the deepest shelters while their parents took up arms. Engineers made final modifications to weapons and equipment. Medical teams prepared for massive casualties. In a few hours, the hidden war would become visible. Humanity would emerge from their tunnels and caves to face an enemy that had conquered half the galaxy. The odds were impossible, the stakes absolute, but deep in the tunnels beneath Earth's surface, 2 billion people prepared to prove that sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do to humanity is try to destroy it. The first shot hadn't been Earth's, but the last one would be. The first teams emerged from the tunnels at exactly 0400 hours, using the pre-dawn darkness as cover. Lisa Park led her squad through the ruins of Chicago, their footsteps silent on the debris-covered streets. Above them, alien patrol ships glided. Between the broken skyscrapers, their blue lights scanning for signs of human activity, the HARP research station sat on the outskirts of the city, a complex of towers and equipment surrounded by alien defensive positions. Lisa could see the crystalline creatures moving in their precise patterns, unaware that death was approaching from beneath their feet. "Remember," she whispered into her communicator, "we need 15 minutes to modify the equipment. Hold them off that long, and we might just save the world." Similar scenes played out across the globe. In Moscow, Captain Boris Petrov led his team through the snow toward their target. In Tokyo, Major Hiroshi Tanaka emerged from subway tunnels with explosives strapped to his back. In New York, London, Sydney, and dozens of other cities, human fighters prepared to reveal themselves after months of hiding. The coordination was perfect, a testament to months of planning and the desperation of a species facing extinction. Every team knew their role, every fighter understood the stakes. This wasn't just another raid, it was humanity's final gambit. Lisa's team reached the perimeter of the ARP station just as the alien guards began their routine patrol change. She raised her hand and 20 human fighters froze in position. "Weapons ready." The aliens moved with their usual mechanical precision, never suspecting that their every movement had been observed and catalogued for weeks. "Now," Lisa breathed. The attack began with a barrage of modified rockets, their warheads designed to disrupt alien energy shields. The weapons were crude compared to alien technology, but they had one advantage: they were completely unexpected. The aliens had grown accustomed to fighting ghosts in tunnels, not coordinated military strikes. The first alien guard fell before it could raise an alarm. The second managed to fire a single shot that lit up the night sky before Lisa's sniper put it down. Within seconds, human fighters were streaming into the compound, their weapons blazing, but the aliens were quick to adapt. Emergency signals brought reinforcements from across the city, and soon the air filled with the whine of alien aircraft. Lisa's team found themselves under heavy fire as they fought their way toward the central control building. "Denny, get those!" "Charges set on the perimeter towers," Lisa shouted over the sound of gunfire. "Tom, I need cover fire while I access the main computer." The young soldier nodded and sprinted toward the nearest transmitter array. He made it halfway before an alien energy beam cut him down, but his sacrifice bought Lisa the time she needed. To reach the control room, inside the building, she found banks of human-built equipment mixed with alien modifications. The creatures had been studying Earth's technology, learning how to improve their own systems. But they had made one crucial mistake. They had left the basic architecture intact. Lisa's fingers flew over the keyboard, implementing the modifications Dr. Chen had designed. The HARP station was being converted into a component of a massive resonance weapon, one that would use Earth's own atmosphere against the alien fleet. "Lisa, we've got problems," came Tony's voice over the radio. "More alien ships incoming. We can't hold them much longer." Through the window, Lisa could see the battle raging across the compound. Her people were fighting with desperate courage, but they were being overwhelmed. Alien reinforcements poured in from all directions, their weapons cutting through human defenses like paper, but reports were coming in from around the world. The Moscow team had successfully modified their station before being wiped out. Tokyo was still fighting, but their equipment was online. One by one, the transmitter stations were being activated, adding their voices to a growing chorus of electromagnetic interference. Dr. Shu's voice crackled through the global communications network. broadcast from his bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. All stations, prepare for final synchronization. We have 12 minutes before the aliens complete their orbital bombardment pattern. Lisa looked up at the sky, where alien ships were taking precise positions above major population centers. They had grown tired of hunting humans through tunnels and caves. They were preparing to burn everything on Earth's surface, sterilizing the planet of human life. Station 77 online, she reported, finishing the last of the modifications. Resonance frequency locked and ready for transmission. Around the world, similar reports came in. Human fighters were dying by the thousands, but they were completing their missions. The transmitter network was taking shape, creating a web of interference that spanned the entire planet. Station 12 down, came a report from Australia. Alien forces overran our position. Station 15 operational, reported a team from Brazil, taking heavy casualties but holding position. Lisa watched the tactical display on her modified tablet. Green dots showed active transmitters, red dots marked stations that had been destroyed. They needed at least 80% of the network to create enough interference to affect the alien fleet. So far, they had 75%. An explosion rocked the building as alien forces breached the outer defenses. Lisa could hear the sound of energy weapons getting closer, the screams of her people as they fought and died to buy her a few more precious minutes. "Chun, we're running out of time," she said into her communicator. "How much longer?" 2 minutes for final calibration, then we activate everything simultaneously. "Lisa, you need to know the power requirements for this are enormous. We're going to overload every transmitter on the planet." Lisa understood what he wasn't saying. The stations would be destroyed in the process, along with anyone still inside them. But if the plan worked, it wouldn't matter. The alien fleet would be crippled and humanity would have a chance to rebuild. "All stations, this is Chun, final. Countdown starting now, 60 seconds to activation." Lisa looked around the control room one last time. She thought about the horizon, about Captain Reed and his crew who had died to warn Earth. She thought about the billions of people hiding in tunnels beneath the surface, waiting to learn if humanity would survive another day. 30 seconds. The door to the control room exploded inward, and alien soldiers poured through the opening. Their crystalline forms moved with deadly grace, weapons raised and ready to fire. Lisa drew her sidearm, knowing it was useless against their technology, but unwilling to die without a fight. 10 seconds. The lead alien aimed its weapon at Lisa's chest. She could see her reflection in its black eyes, distorted and small. For a moment, they stared at each other across the room. Predator and prey, conqueror and conquered, double quotes, 3. Activate, Lisa smiled as she pressed the final button. Around the world, every remaining transmitter fired simultaneously, sending carefully tuned interference patterns into Earth's ionosphere. The planet itself became a weapon. Its magnetic field turned against the alien fleet orbiting above. The alien soldier fired, but Lisa never felt the impact. She was already falling, her mission complete, as the greatest gamble in human history began to unfold in the skies above Earth. High above Earth's atmosphere, the alien fleet hung in perfect formation, their crystalline hulls gleaming in the light of the sun. Fleet Commander Kethver stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the final preparations for planetary sterilization. The humans had proven more troublesome than expected, but their resistance was finally at an end. "All vessels report ready for final bombardment," his tactical officer announced. "Planetary surface will be cleansed of human presence within the hour." Kethver nodded. The young species had shown remarkable ingenuity, hiding beneath their planet's surface like insects in rotting wood. But insects could be exterminated, and the Galactic Council would be pleased to learn that another potential threat had been eliminated. Then the first ship died, the UFS Harmony. A massive dreadnought on the fleet's outer edge suddenly went dark. Its weapons powered down, its engines failed, and its perfect crystalline hull began to crack like ice under pressure. Emergency signals flooded the communication channels as the ship's crew found themselves trapped in a dying vessel. "What happened?" Kethver demanded. Unknown, Commander. All systems show normal operation, then complete failure. We're reading massive quantum resonance disruption across the ship's entire structure. A second ship failed, then a third. The disruption spread through the fleet like a plague, targeting the very foundation of their technology. Ships that had conquered star systems found themselves powerless, their crews dying as life support systems collapsed. "It's the planet," the tactical officer said, his voice filled with disbelief. "The humans have turned their entire world into a weapon." Kethver stared at the blue-green sphere below them. How could a primitive species create technology capable of affecting quantum-level systems? It should have been impossible, yet the evidence was all around them. His perfect fleet was falling apart, ship by ship, as something from the planet's surface disrupted their harmonic frequencies. "All vessels, emergency retreat," he ordered. "Get us away from whatever they're doing," but it was too late. The interference pattern had already reached critical mass, turning Earth's ionosphere into a massive resonance chamber. The carefully tuned frequencies that held alien technology together were being shattered by simple electromagnetic noise, amplified and focused by the planet's own magnetic field, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Dr. Chun watched the results of his desperate gambit unfold on the tactical display. Green lights marked alien ships that had gone dark, their quantum systems disrupted by the interference pattern. The count was rising rapidly, 50 ships, then 100, then 200. "It's working," he whispered, hardly daring to believe. The resonance cascade is spreading through their entire fleet." Admiral Stone stood beside him, watching humanity's greatest victory unfold in real time. The cost had been enormous. Thousands of fighters had died to activate the transmitter network, and the surface bombardment had destroyed most of Earth's major cities. But they had done the impossible. They had turned alien perfection into alien weakness. "How many ships are still operational?" she asked. "Less than 50 out of the original 500. And those are falling dark as the interference pattern spreads." On the main screen, they could see alien vessels drifting helplessly. In space, their crews trapped inside failing ships. Some tried to activate emergency systems, but the quantum disruption had affected every piece of technology they possessed. The hunters had become the hunted, prisoners of their own advanced science, but Chun's triumph was short-lived. As he watched the display, he noticed something that made his blood run cold. The alien flagship, larger and more heavily shielded than the others, was still operational. Its quantum systems were more robust, protected by additional layers of harmonic stabilization. "Stone, we have a problem," he said urgently. "Their command ship is still active." On the flagship's bridge, Commander Kethver watched his fleet die around him. Centuries of technological development, generations of careful advancement reduced to space debris by a species that had barely mastered interplanetary travel. The humiliation was beyond bearing. "Sir, we should retreat," his tactical officer advised. "Our ship won't survive much longer in this interference field." Kethver's crystalline features hardened. "No, if we cannot complete our mission, we will. Ensure that the humans pay for their defiance. Charge the planetary cracker." The ship's most powerful weapon began to power up, drawing energy from the dying systems around it. The planetary cracker was designed to split worlds in half, a weapon of last resort that consumed enormous amounts of power. But it would be enough to destroy Earth's biosphere, ensuring that humanity's victory was meaningless underground. Proximity alarms began screaming throughout the command bunker. The remaining alien ship was preparing to fire, and its weapon signature was unlike anything they had seen before. "Evacuation protocols," Stone ordered. "Get everyone to the deepest shelters." But Chin was studying the readings, his mind racing through possibilities. "Wait, look at their power consumption. They're drawing energy from their own failing systems to charge that weapon. So they're already operating on the edge of quantum cascade failure. If we can push them over that edge." Chion's fingers flew over his console, adjusting the interference pattern to focus on the alien flagship. The other ships were already dead or dying, their power no longer needed to maintain the global resonance field. Everything could be concentrated on the single remaining threat. Chun, what are you doing? Overloading our network. Every transmitter on Earth, every piece of equipment we have, all focused on that one ship. It'll burn out our systems, but it might be enough to push them into complete cascade failure. Stone understood. It was their last weapon, their final shot in a war that had cost them everything. Do it. Around the world, the few remaining transmitter stations began operating beyond their design limits. The interference pattern intensified, focusing on the alien flagship like a lens concentrating sunlight. The ship's quantum systems, already strained by the global resonance field, began to fluctuate wildly. Commander Kethver felt his ship shudder as the interference reached critical levels. Warning lights flashed across every console, and the harmonic frequencies that held their technology together began to collapse. But the planetary cracker was almost fully charged, its destructive potential growing with each passing second. Fire! He ordered, the weapon discharged, sending a beam of pure destruction toward Earth's surface. But at the same moment, the ship's quantum systems finally collapsed entirely. The perfectly tuned frequencies that made alien technology possible dissolved into chaos, and the flagship began to tear itself apart at the molecular level, the planetary cracker's beam struck Earth's surface, carving a massive crater where the Pacific Ocean had been. Steam and debris erupted into the atmosphere as billions of tons of water were vaporized instantly. But the weapon had fired at partial power, its energy dissipated by the ship's failing systems. Earth survived. The alien flagship continued its death throes, its crystalline hull fracturing as quantum forces ran wild. Emergency pods launched desperately, carrying the few crew members who had survived the cascade failure. But most of the ship's complement died as their perfect technology turned against them. In the underground bunker, Chun watched the final alien ship break apart. Pieces of crystalline hull spun away into space, each fragment carrying the dreams of a species that had thought themselves masters of the galaxy. "It's over," Stone said quietly. "We won." But Chin was already looking at the next display, the one showing the locations of other alien worlds. The data had been recovered from the flagship's computers in the moments before its destruction, transmitted automatically to Earth's receivers. "No," he said, his voice filled with grim determination. "It's just beginning." Stone followed his gaze to the star charts showing alien colonies, their homeworlds, the locations of species that had supported the attack on humanity. The cost of victory had been enormous. Earth's surface was scarred, its cities destroyed, its population reduced by more than half. But humanity had survived, and they had learned to use alien technology. "We know where they live now," Chun continued. "We know their weaknesses, and we have their own ships to reverse engineer." Around them, the underground command center bustled with activity as survivors began to emerge from their shelters. The war for Earth was over, but the larger conflict had just begun. Humanity had been marked for extinction, and they would not forget that lesson. Admiral Stone stood at the observation window, looking up at the stars that had once seemed so peaceful. Somewhere out there were the worlds of species that had voted to destroy humanity, aliens who had thought Earth too primitive to pose a threat. They were about to learn how wrong they had been. "The first shot wasn't Earth's," she said quietly, watching the debris of the alien fleet drift across the sky. "But the last one will be." Construction crews were already salvaging alien technology, learning to build ships that could cross the galaxy. Earth's children were preparing to spread among the stars, carrying with them the memory of what had been done to their world. The galaxy had created exactly the threat it had feared most, a species that had learned to turn any disadvantage into a weapon, any loss into motivation for victory. And now that species knew where its enemies lived,